Everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 505. Today we're going to take a look at Celestia. This is a new game from BlackRock Editions as well as other publishers. This is actually an update to a game that I quite enjoy called Cloud9, which I've never done a review of because I don't actually own it. Some friends of mine actually own it. So this is kind of an update, new and improved, better looking, some new rules, some new cards. It's very much a push your luck game, and what happens is each turn there's a captain, and they are going to be flying this big kind of Zeppelin-y kind of thing, and you just kind of travel to these faraway lands and try to collect treasure, and the other players kind of decide each round if they want to stick with the captain or jump ship and collect whatever point you're currently at. And the captain marker will rotate to the next player. Anybody that's left in the ship will be able to decide if they want to jump ship or keep going, and it's based on the cards that the players might have. So you'll be kind of reading other players a little bit. It's very light, kind of push your luck game. Let's take a look at the mechanics and then I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, here we've got everything set up as if it was a 6-player game. I don't think I mentioned it plays 2 to 6 players. And it's very, very simple, as I said. What you're going to be doing is traveling down this path and you're visiting these different cities and faraway lands. Very, very cool artwork you can see here on these tiles and then also on the backs of these cards. So these are scoring cards that actually go with these tiles. And you can see here a couple things. As this one, you're going to be required to roll 3 dice to move to it, and this can be worth 12 or more points. And all the way up here to the 25. Now the 25s and the other higher ones are fixed points, so all those cards will say 25 points on them. And each player has a little token here on their player color, and they have a little pawn there in their player color as well. And then players are going to be dealt a hand of 5 of these cards to start the game, and these are going to help you overcome the different challenges of flight, and there's different special abilities and stuff. They all are indicated by these different icons, and the back of the rules watch the icons, but there's not too many. So how does a turn work? Well, the first player is going to take, and they're going to look at the next tile here, and this is the case we're going to be moving to this one to start the game. We're going to see you need to roll 2 dice, and that player is the captain. So they're going to take 2 of these dice and roll them, and then we can see this result here has a lightning bolt and then a little blue cloud there. There are sides that are blank, and there's just different symbols that you need. So what this means is that that player needs to have those cards matching all the dice that were rolled for the players to be able to advance, or else the ship is going to crash. Now before, as the captain, you say, okay, I've got the cards, I'm going to play the cards. Before you say anything, all the players going around to the left are going to decide either to jump ship, and maybe they'll jump out and they'll put the pawn on their token there, or they say, you know what, I'm in, I think you're good to go. And then let's say yellow and red are feeling unlucky, so they jump out, and then they'll take a card here from the stack and they'll have that many points. And then the captain will reveal, maybe he reveals that he does have the cards, so he discards these, and then we move along, and then the next player becomes the captain, and then he will roll the dice there, looking at the next spot. So again, 2 more, and we're going to roll that, and then it's the same thing goes around. Everybody decides if they want to stay in or get out, and if they jump out again, they take a card from this deck, and you just keep going. Now if the captain doesn't have a matching card, anybody that hasn't jumped out, this is going to crash. Everybody's going to go back to the beginning. We'll reset the ship here, and then everybody will draw a card off the deck like so, and then we'll go to the next captain. And so there's a real kind of interesting sort of flux of, you know, available cards. Everybody starts with 5 cards, and they kind of get depleted over time, and then you kind of crash a whole bunch, and then you draw back up, and then you kind of a tension between that. Now the game will end when, well, there's a few ways the game will end based on the variance in the rules, but the main way, which I'm going to explain here, is the first player to 50 points. We'll then announce that, and then anybody else that has 50 points or so will announce if they have a higher score, then the person with the higher score will win the game. Now, there are some special cards. Where did I put that? I think here. So you can get, in this case here, the spyglass. So you can use this after everybody has possibly decided to jump out or stay, and this will succeed at canceling all of the dice. So if the captain says, I can't play, then you can play this, and then that will basically cover all the dice that you couldn't play. If you keep it at the end of the game, it's going to be worth 2 points. The other thing is there's always 1 card in these stacks that are kind of out of bounds in terms of the number of points. Let's see, I think there's a 12-pointer in here. Yes. So there's like some 6s and some 9s and some 12s. You can see that says a 6+, and then each of these has this little magic spyglass here. So you can get lucky if you jump out early and get something that's, you know, kind of double the number of points. Now there are also some special effects and cards in here. There is a wild card which allows you to sort of cancel one of the dice. It doesn't have to match. And I should say, if the captain does have the matching cards, they do have to play them if they can succeed. But the wild, you don't actually have to play that if you want to hold on to that wild for later. There are other special effects. Let's take a look here, see if I can find them. Here we are. We can take a look here at the icon here. You can see this is a jetpack. So after the captain's declared they're going to crash, you can jetpack at that last minute and then grab whatever treasure card you happen to be on. This one here, when the aircraft is about to crash, then allows the captain to re-roll as many dice as they wish to try to fix that. So after they've declared we can't do it, you try to redirect there. This one here is forces the captain to re-roll all the uneventful blank dice. So you can say you have to roll those, but you can actually play that after the captain plays his card. So it kind of is a bad one and take that kind of thing. And then this one here is when all the passengers have announced their intention, you can force the targeted passenger to get off the aircraft. So if they decided to stay, then you say nope, you have to actually get off the aircraft. Another kind of mean card. So that's the game. Very simple. The captain rolls the dice. You see if they have the cards. Everybody decides if they want to stay or not. Maybe play some special abilities. And then the first one to 50 points is the winner. Now you can play to be the, when the first player collects 5 different cards, then that will trigger the end of the game. So it kind of interesting, makes you jump around a little bit. And then you'll see how many points wins there. There's also a variant where you can take out these power cards and also those magic spyglasses, and that's combined with the variant of scoring different ways. So there's a few different ways you can play it, but let's jump to the review and I can talk more about that. Okay, so that is Celestia. What I think of it, well, I don't really talk about it that much on the channel here because I don't have it, but we really have a good time playing Cloud9 at my gaming group, and it's been something I've enjoyed, you know, over the last few years. To me, this is kind of the more definitive version of it. Now the rules are slightly different because in Cloud9 you didn't have the extra power cards. The wild cards worked a little bit differently, but you kind of have the spyglass thing, and it was a fixed number of points. It was actually a point track, so if you got to the spot that was worth 12 points and jumped out, then you just got 12 points. There was no randomness to the points. And I've played with folks that have sort of not liked the extra bit of randomness. Now I think it's really neat. I kind of like it. I played Cloud9, you know, enough times that this kind of adds a little bit of spice and variety to it. So it just makes it a little bit more interesting and replayable, kind of breathe some fresh life into the game. But you could easily play the basic Cloud9 if you like that, because to me the core Cloud9 mechanic is still very interesting without all the special craziness, because you have the whole sort of flux of the card flow in the game, which I mentioned during the walkthrough of, okay, you know, at the beginning, you know, maybe it's a little bit easier, even though it's not necessarily always easier. You can have somebody just fail in the first one just because they don't have the card that matched the one die that they rolled, you know, the one icon that was showing. So you can still have like an early crash. So sometimes it's not a bad idea just to jump out at the beginning. But there's enough to that mechanic. It kind of feels like a Diamond or Incan's Gold type of game, but I actually like this a little bit better. There's enough to that you don't need to add all that. Now you can play that. You just take out the power cards, you take out the special cards, and then instead of flipping these scoring cards over and, you know, looking at the points, you can just take one and just leave it face down and be like, that's worth 9 points. And then you can just look and then ask people, how many points do you have? Because that's going to also add a little bit of flavor to the gameplay. As if somebody gets kind of far ahead, you're like, oh, I got to push it, I got to stay in, you know, and sometimes you stay in, you don't want to stay in, but you have to get up to the point. So you can just take these and say, this is worth 9, because that's what the spot is. So you can play that sort of vanilla way of playing. And so that's actually a little bit easier to play with kids as well, especially when they're first getting into the game, because the icons are kind of small and you've got to keep referring to that. So there's just that little extra layer of complexity for a kind of younger child to consume all that, you know, especially the first time they play a game. So you could play that basic Cloud9 and then you kind of work your way into, you know, the cool special abilities and the spyglasses and all that kind of stuff, and then play around with how you do the scoring and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit toolkitty in a way that you could actually play the more basic game and then add in some of the crazy dynamics, which I do personally. And now that I've kind of sort of sounded like I'm bashing on it, I actually really enjoy that way of playing it. It adds just that extra flavor. You know, do they have these other cards? Is he going to hook me in and keep me in there? Because maybe I'm trying to jump out and grab. If you're playing that variant where you have to have 5 different cards, it's like, oh no, that's going to give you your last one. I'm going to hook you in there. So you can kind of hold those cards for those different moments and stuff. And I like that kind of stuff. It's a little bit take thatty, but it's also sort of timed and not just, you know, stupidly mean. There's, you know, ways to kind of play around that and stuff. So it's a very light, silly game, but to me, it's kind of like my favorite kind of version of that Ink and Gold. There's a few different games. There's that one, I can't remember the name of it, the Deep Blue Sea or something like that, where you kind of deep dive and go for treasure. It's a small game from Japan. That's a very fun one as well. This one, it kind of fits in that same thing, and I think this one is probably my favorite. I do kind of get a kick out of these kind of push your luck games, and in a little bit light amount of bluffing, and the bluffing isn't very heavy at all, but it's just a fun filler, really, is what it is. You play 20 minutes and then you have a good laugh, and then you play it again if you had a really good time, or you just move on. So I would definitely take a look at the Celestia. Like I showed you, the art's really good, so it's going to look nice on the table, and you have this cool boat ship thing. That's neat. Okay, that's Celestia. Thanks.